What was that other part of Eisenhower's military-industrial complex speech that Alex Jones made them bring up on that alien drug podcast? Some other part of it that I've never heard before.
You mean the alien drug podcast? You mean the you mean Joe Rogan's podcast?
Yes, when Alex Jones went on Joe Rogan's podcast and reaffirmed a lot of the things that I discovered on drugs.
Oh yeah. I watched that with me and TM were just watching that this week.
Where you didn't watch the whole thing, and the whole thing, Alex Jones just rambles endlessly about, who you call the astral, we call the Umbra, just essentially just other dimensional beings. And how essentially the technocracy is abusing, juicing the Umbra for knowledge and technology, and that it's just abusing it back by manipulating the greedy technocrats.
They're
getting scammed.
Your take on the elves was exactly right from what I've experienced on acid.
Because I experienced it.
Yeah, that's why I asked you, because you're the only person that did DMT.
It's not particularly important. It's just very experiential.
You saw the reality elves. What was that like?
Well, I didn't. You don't see them. You don't see things on DMT. You feel them.
Right.
You dream them.
You see them in your mind's eye, like you're having a dream while you're awake, probably.
When I did it, I went full stupid. I was using it as a performance enhancing, So what I was doing is that I was both working through a lot of books and just general material on markets, and a lot of books and general material on just broadband philosophy. And what I would do is that I would read a lot until I was just saturated. And I didn't just read. I would read and take notes and just cram my head with all that stuff. And then I would try to make some sense of it. And then when I was just too tired and I couldn't really make any more progress, boom, drop it. And then for 5 hours, I would just be lost in that. And what happens is that your brain, that's not what you're supposed. It doesn't actually enhance anything. If anything, it might have actually detracted from a lot of my progress with that. But it did frame. It did frame my mind going into those things it was extremely controlled for me. And so it was never a very special experience. But like a dream.
Yeah.
And especially like a dream when you're in control, you run into things, right? You could say that like in dreams, your mind will manifest like other kind of entities for you to interact with that are just floating around in your brain. Well, the more you're in control and the more vivid the dream is, the more vivid those people and entities are. Yeah. Well, in that thing, that's exactly what happened, but you were very conscious of the fact that that was not coming out of your head, that was coming out of what you took. And that you were just, it doesn't feel humanoid. It's kind of like if you could...
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Take like a forced central computer and turn that into a mind and have it be like barely like sentient. Right?
No, I've had experiences
just kind of manage
like
an
that.
ecosystem. Yeah,
I've had experiences like that sober.
And
I know what you mean.
Being paranoid as I am, my paranoia is expressed purely in an offensive way, and so what I immediately did is to confront this thing. And I distinctly remember just essentially spending, I don't know, it might have been 5 minutes, it might have been hours, just concentrating, just trying to concentrate and exert my will over myself to control myself as I'm confronting this whatever thing, so that I look at it. I wanted to like look at it with my mind's eye because it was disturbing. And of course it didn't work. And because you are high, you don't wake up like in a dream.
Oh yeah.
it just keeps going.
And it keeps on going.
And me being me, there is an infinite reserve of anger to fuel that. And so it might have been hours. It might have just been 5 minutes at the end of the trip. But eventually, yeah, it just, whatever that was, just left. It just left.
Yeah, I started like fucking around with spirit stuff after drugs. So I had a lot of experiences like that, but they were after drugs. They were sober. They were all stone sober, usually.
I also found out that I was, like later in conversation like this, and, there is the Joe Rogan thing where he talks about doses. I was taking a lot. I was taking just fairly unhealthy amounts.
Yeah, I was too when I was taking psychedelics.
Just very, very stupid amounts of it.
And disassociatives.
Like, I thought it was normal to take it and then pass out in your bed for maybe 5 hours to 12 hours. I thought that was just like the norm.
Well, I mean, I kind of, I'm really afraid of taking higher doses, but now I realize I have to do that to go deeper. But because I have these vague visions of things, and I know if I just took higher doses, I would get to see more of it. And I get fucking clotheslined and tortured until my ego dies, and then I start being told these things. So, I mean, I don't black out and go. I don't like black out and get incapacitated other than when I'm dying. I'm actually just stumbling around, mumbling to myself like a lunatic.
Oh yeah, well, that's why I don't induce that with psychedelics or disassociatives anymore much.
It has to be done for me. Like I know going in, that's what's going to happen.
I mean, I say I do it sober, but I do like Kundalini yoga type shit a lot to get there. I don't just do nothing.
You can do this stuff without drugs.
I'm not saying I don't put in. I have to put in a lot of prep time. I have to be especially sober, and I have to chant for a long, long time and lay down.
Yes, you can do all this. I mean, well, acid is it kind of it messes with your brain structure, so it does something that you can't really. That you basically need it for that, but I do know that you can do stuff like this with meditation and yoga.
Yeah, it's definitely different, but it's similar, and it's some of my most vivid, like some of the most vivid visions I had like that were like when I had dreams, like when I accidentally pop something open and it just feels like this fucking I'm like an electric man or something, and my spine is a live wire, and then I'll like have like a dream, and in it I'll tend to see things that are like more. It's hard to explain because it's like more realistic than anything in waking life is. It's bizarre. It's like hyper realistic. I don't know. I've seen weird things like that, and I had to make sense of them for a while.
You know what's one of the most fucked up things about it? It's like towards the end of it, whenever you get vaporized by this godlike being and you start seeing visions of Hindu gods and statues and shit, then I get laid down into this Zen garden surrounded by other consciousnesses, and then after I get bored of sitting there for eternity, then they trick me into jumping back into my body.
Yeah, I worship Shiva.
Dude, Shiva is based. But I think I'm pretty sure that was,
I've worshipped Shiva for like 2 years now.
Yeah, Shiva's fine. Like, what's the other one? Well,
what does he look like?
Is it? Hold on, I need to.
You talking about Yama, god of death?
Yamantaka, yes, god of death.
Okay. Yeah, he's not a bad figure. He's kind of an indifferent figure.
Well, it's morality doesn't really matter out there. Like,
no, it's like
suffering is a part of living, and
he's just like a regulator of death. Like he doesn't like kill anybody or make anybody live. You know.
Depends on the interpretation. I mean, you can go as far back as the Vedic scriptures, where you originate.
Well, in the Vedic scriptures and stuff, they tend to say that Shiva can prevent him from killing somebody.
Well, but you have to think about the level of interpretation when all that's going on. Like,
Well, yeah, but that's
like,
the basis of like a medicine mantra involving Shiva. Is that bit, and it relates to the story prayed to Shiva, and Yama came to kill him. And when Yama came to kill him, Shiva said he's not going to die, and then he went to, and then Shiva fucking yeeted him for trying to kill him.
it's like they experience stuff like this, so it's a lot of things get lost in translation, and people insert little pieces of themselves that they want to believe. But there is the fact that, like, I every single time I have to have my ego peeled away like an orange with suffering and labyrinths of torture before I get to learn some stuff. So it's all, and then after the torture is over, then I get to see this 100-armed figure that I don't know. What's this? Oh, another Patton quote.
Yeah, absorbing the enemy's ego.
Oh yes, jumping into his perspective.
Oh, you had a vision of being Yama?
Who mean no. Yama appeared like in these vague.
Because they also do this thing where you visualize yourself as deity, and it gets to this ridiculous point where you like experience yourself as deity, and that's the whole thing that people try to induce.
I couldn't make out the being other than it had a shitload of arms, and I just associate that with Eastern religions.
Yeah.
I would probably believe it was what they call a Yamantaka, just because of the role of judgment and potential torture and killing, which are all real factors in that. I mean,
yeah, he kind of mechanically brings people's karma down on them. Is how he's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
It's not really a personal thing, and it's not like for any bad or good, good. It's just like a force.
I didn't care about Hinduism and like the Vedic scriptures that much until I saw that, and then I started jumping into it.
Yeah, I've read a good amount of the Vedas. Not all of it, but there's a lot of fucking stuff in that library. Oh, yeah. And also I read tantric scripture, so there's even more of that. So I've only read some things.
Yeah, you're definitely far more versed in that than I am. I basically just skimmed through mythology to I'm trying to make my own kind of setting by taking from all of this to try to match the cosmology of what I think is going on.
Yeah, it's kind of universal. Like there's a lot of different.
Yeah, but there's still we universally see things that look like Hindu gods and shit, which is really bizarre.
Well, and like a lot of god deities are the same. Like Anubis is like the same. There's a lot of deities from different religions that just do that. Like that's what Anubis does. Is he's once you're dead or whatever, he's just like, all right, I'm gonna just weigh your fucking karma on a scale, basically.
Yeah,
whatever comes out.
They all do that, but
you
like literally having like 100 arms, like a Hindu god, you see it in your mind's eye. Like they look like a Hindu god when you see them.
Well, you probably saw that particular god. I think there's different gods and they regulate different people. I think it varies a lot.
Like I'm not converted to Hinduism. I just go through other spirituality and try to find parallels, and because it's interesting whenever.
Well, I'm kind of cross disciplinary too. Like I work with the archangels too, and I like to invoke the archangels just as much. It varies, but I get good results from that too. And I'm open to other things, and like I'm open to trying other deities as long as I don't get a shitty vibe from them.
I mean, even if I get a shitty vibe from them, it's part of the process. They're gonna peel me like a fucking orange before I get to talk to the thing that people will call God.
Yeah, well, you can. It can also be received through grace, which is typically what like the yogic scripture tends to try to encourage.
Like, it sucks getting tortured, but I mean, eventually you overcome it and you pass all the trials, and then you get to hear some shit. You get to see a bunch of visions.
That's been fucking going on in like life cycles for years for me right now. My last 4 years have been like that.
Just random. Yeah, I randomly also kind of get like possessed at work. Like, I start going black and start getting blasted by a bunch of visions, and then I frantically try to write all the notes down before I forget them.
Yeah. No, it's real. You don't have to worry about your health or whatever. It's real, and it's probably the best information you can get.
It's like I view this is like you're taking shit straight from where inspiration itself comes from. If you want to
Yeah,
use it for
exactly.
creative
It's
works.
exactly. It's right from the teat. The teat of the
Yeah.
higher levels of reality.
Like, if you want something that resonates with as many people as possible, like, this is the fucking way to do it. Go to the source that all humans can universally tap into, and they see relatively the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I also study Kabbalah and stuff because it's a system of doing that. It's definitely it's definitely something that's accessible to people. It just takes work, and there's nothing better than direct knowledge. There's nothing else that matters. All that indirect derivative knowledge and stuff is like, if it's not derived from a truth, it's not good, and you don't know if it's derived from a truth unless you know.
Yeah, it's good to have all these visions and experiences for yourself, and then you can go look for the parallels in spirituality.
Yeah, like with consensus, how like everybody says like what Western psychiatry is real. It's like the biggest fucking farce and like poisoning of people in history.
Yes,
And they're like, oh yeah, that's great.
This TBH.
you're being handled by sociopaths who cannot see things from their perspective.
Who are on like 5 meds themselves on average.
I
It's
repeatedly,
fucking ridiculous.
it's like a ritual for me where I don't even need to be on drugs to experience this. Like, I'll just randomly like just wake up in my body, and I can't believe the mindset that I was having before. Like, I couldn't believe how boxed in I was in some mentality I was in. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe how close-minded I've been.
Yeah, today randomly during a meditation, my fucking head just got blasted with actual light, and my actual like fucking optics were brighter, and I was like, what in fucking tarnation? And then like my head cleared a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, I've been really fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, it just felt like it's weird. It felt like there was like if my brain was a processor, it was like running on like 7 volts, and like I accidentally unblocked something so it could be 9 volts, and I was like, whoa, and I was like, oh, oh shit, I'm getting a like, oh shit, somebody just overclocked my brain. I overclocked my own brain accidentally, I guess, but didn't feel bad. It felt good.
It's good. At least someone else is frequently indulging in this. I'm sick of being called a demon worshiper repeatedly.
Yeah, no,
Demon
people call me
worshiper.
bullshit like that too. It's
He's not a
nonsense.
demon worshiper, he's an infernalist. That's a big difference.
Yeah, and Yama is an infernal. He's not. It's not. There's demons in Hindu mythology, but Yama is not one of them.
The thing is that, like, I had an alter ego of myself running around. It was like a Tyler Durden from Fight Club shit, where he would help me get up so that I wouldn't rot as a carcass on the ground because time would speed up. Like, after the torture and all that, I would start to get blasted by like God, this white light with all these visions, and then once I and then I would collide with that alter ego that was like the better me.
Damn, you out here getting the spears. That's how you gain spears, man. It definitely is.
Yeah, so it's not like it's all like I've gone through so many worldviews. I've said so many things like about a parasite god and shit. That was just me just trying to understand it. Like none of it was really what was going on. It's like that's why what you said about the elves, TM, made sense to me because that's what I was doing with the shit that I saw. Plus all the cultural aspects with elves and people viewing it as something to be hunted.
Angry about elves.
Angry over elves.
Where's the dwarves? So that we can go fuck those elves up.
Doors are physical things. Well, the doors live in the rocks.
Yeah, the dwarves and the gnomes are associated with the earth element. They're like earth elementals. To my understanding, that's what gnomes are, and dwarves are basically just big gnomes, I think.
Do they have
I don't know.
cannons and build fortresses and shoot elves and stuff?
So I'm not going to summon one for no reason. So
Because they'll have a tantrum spiral and decapitate you.
yeah, I may get like beat up or something. Probably not kill me, but they may beat my ass. They may just like engage in some umbral combat and just whip my fucking ass
You just,
and make me call for help or something and fuck me up a bit.
it's like Fallout 1 and 2. You just enter combat mode and it makes that sound effect. Your panels
Yeah,
fly over.
they may just start mentally wailing on me if they feel like it. So I could probably even win, but it's just not. You know, it's like I don't care enough about having a vision of like a little gnome man or something, you know,
No.
in a little hat or something, and before he like kicks me in the balls, I'm good.
I would like to literally be kicked in the balls rather than figuratively be kicked in the balls in the labyrinth from Hellraiser over the span of 500 years in my mind.
Yeah, the only evocations I do are very tactical ones, just like Archangel Michael every day for 10 minutes with the whole candle and little shrine set up. Just to keep other shit out of my space. Like a gnome trying to beat me up. If you don't know, like, what dimension they're from and if there's, like, nasty shit in their dimension, it's a fucking hole. That would be a whole headache.
Do you believe in a spirit realm, or do you believe everything's the physical and that we can just shift along new dimensions with our brains?
I'm a spirit. I only have spirits in spirit.
I mean,
I don't do anything else. I interface with spirits all the time.
Well, in the sense that, you know, if you had some extra sliders to shift along new dimensions.
No, I know they're real because they move things.
Yeah, so it's like things that we just can't perceive right now.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
it's all the
that
physical.
It's things I've had to train myself to perceive, and yeah, is how I see it. And they're not entirely like ephemeral, you know, like not what's the word, ethereal, because they can move things and stuff. And it hasn't been even bad experiences, but just like in benign ways, even just to show me they can. I've seen that they can move. I've seen that they can manipulate objects, and they can like, you know, like turn a TV off or like fuck with things.
I haven't had physical manipulation yet. I've just had them react to when I was trying to record my last acid trip.
I had a phase in my life for a few years where I had to engage in umbral combat sometimes, and then I learned how to master umbral combat by avoiding it.
Niggers.
Basically, by avoiding it and just having warbs and protections up so shit couldn't even come near me. Just impossible. And eventually that led to me like working with more positive ones and such. So I definitely have worked with spirits a lot. Sober.
the possibility that it's other telepaths just fucking with you?
You know that it can be, but it's not. It can be a lot of things.
Because
Tell them about the niggers down the street.
It's like a lot of different planes of reality at once can reach
Katsu,
yours.
tell them
if
about
you,
the niggers down the street.
oh, you want to hear?
Well, yeah, because it's obvious.
You want me to tell
when
them the
you've been
voodoo
living
cult
there
thing?
for a while. That's what was bothering you.
interference.
Not just interference.
Not just interference. There were these people who were like summoning not good shit in my neighborhood, and there were all these. In about a year, this was about a year ago, and there were all these like not shady like French speaking black guys who kind of seemed like Haitian, and they were like and the vibe in the neighborhood got terrible, and I was having to engage in umbral combat all the time. Shit was trying to fight me because there was just nasty shit afoot. And I had like a vision of this fucking woman and this man and meeting in the deep south, a white woman and this black guy. And she didn't get black though, so don't worry, it's not going there. But where it was this very vivid vision for like it was a dream, but it was like very intense and it was completely third person. And basically, like I saw this woman teach this black guy inverted life spears. Really, and she was like raising the dead in a big mud pit, which is apparently part of traditional voodoo. I didn't know it at the time. I looked it up after and found out that they have these mud pits for spawning things, and it's a part of the religion. I didn't know that. And I had this crazy vision of it. And a year later, recently, a family of 5 got murdered by a cult in the town. And when the police got there, one of the people who did it was like seizing, and the other was confused, and they were literally like possessed. And they were telling their family that there were demons in the house and stuff. And that's what happened with that.
Do you believe that there is a section of the higher dimensions occupied by black American thought where they tell you to get out, Cracker? Someone told me that they experienced that.
Yeah, because I think that there's places that are like for certain like lineages of people, you know, and if you're not like in it, they don't want to talk to you. Like I know that there's deities that they say like you don't worship this deity unless you're from this place and you're a person from there, because they'll just put up a wall or they'll ignore you, or they'll say fuck you, go away.
You're not an orc. You can't worship Gork.
Yeah. Like a lot of like deities are race locked.
Unlockable. So
Because I think there's certain like racial memories along depending on what you are, that like and spiritual tendencies
So
are irrelevant.
we should race mix to unlock more characters.
No, that creates spiritually confused identity.
Yep. Or actually just meat bags. That news article was interesting.
What?
Wait, what?
Did it just die?
Yeah.
I thought my internet failed.
The exact phrasing is his foot was through the wall, but it appeared that
Oh yeah, and the murder, it was 2 women who did it, but somehow a guy was like lodged through the wall and like the doors were ripped off the hinges. And when they got there, the woman was just like fucking having a seizure, they said, but you
it
know,
was
like,
lodged into a wall.
but having a seizure is like what fighting off a possession looks like, you know, and the other woman was confused for some reason, even though there was no drugs.
And so Kitsune.
Is this what 5 dots and flesh crafting looks like?
Yeah, and they said these 2 strange men entered the apartment and left. So obviously they were setting it up and doing all the shit to get them possessed to go kill them and leaving by the time they did.
Yeah.
It was clear what happened to us.
Yeah, and there was like the whole thing where the day before you make a comment about it, about how you're paranoid. It was like, oh, I saw these 2 black guys. They're sketchy. Something's off about their vibe. And then He just says something about like, ooh, things are happening. I'm feeling really bad. And the next day, there's this news article about literally shape-shifting Negroes.
Yeah,
Most
it was.
entertaining.
It was like the bullshit they were summoning that I really dealt with more.
So you see, that's actual infernalism. That's what it looks like.
Darkness
Yeah.
like befell the town, like it was unbelievable. Like you could feel it in like every step. It was the power lines were like going off randomly, and there were like sparks of electricity suddenly. And I saw one or two things just outside, standing in the fucking street, and I was like, "What the fuck? Did I just see that with my bare eyes?" That's like a horrible thing, you know.
We should go to DC together someday.
Yeah, well, now I have all these fucking wards on me, and I wear like fucking, I wear like 4 amulets, so I'm not.
That's great.
I wear like 1 amulet for all 7 archangels, and then I have one specifically for Archangel Michael and the armies of heaven.
I want to get a Dharma Chakra amulet, and then on the other side of it, it's the Chaos Sigil.
You see, when I
keep
say
4 on me.
when I say
I
you
could
spare
post them.
niggers are flashy, this is what I'm talking about.
I mean, like, I'd probably get sick of doing it, then I'd go back to just t-shirt and shorts like every other day.
It's not flashy. I just don't even take some of this shit off in the shower, and I just wear it. It's not even. I keep it under my clothes most of the time. I don't even. I need to. It's so I have something to launch off of, so that the archangel can launch easily if I haven't need any help. Because he just yeets everything instantly. He's like Archangel Michael is like level 9,000. He just fucking yeets everything.
Yeah, I
Over 9,000.
don't consider what I do to be infernalism. I consider it a trial by fire, and if you fail, you might commit suicide or get possessed.
It's like left hand tantra is what they would call that.
Now, I started screaming about infernalism because you conveniently forget the passage where that particular awakening episode where you were being tortured inside of your own mind by that specific alter ego involved brokering a piece of your mind out.
Right. But
Right.
you see,
yeah.
that could
and
be...
the words "I sold a piece of my soul" were used before I ever
what
joined
that
the
is-
mythos.
I know. I remember that. It's just,
What that actually is though is your lower self and higher self are like literal beings that you can fucking end up fighting with too. Like I've fought both. I've fought like a lower self, and I've seen like the higher like awakened avatar version,
right.
and who's like this crazy like monk with all
I have
these
also had that
decorations.
experience.
Yeah,
It's just, if sometimes you see like a nasty version of yourself that tries to attack you when you're in a low place in life, because that's like your literal lower self trying to pull you down.
I'm undecided
Yeah.
on what they actually are, but I am open to the suggestion that they are just... There's, like, what I can identify that acid actually does is it just takes your mental functions as they are happening all throughout the day, every day, and it just turns them up by like 1,000,000. So that part of you that... This is just a consideration, I'm not saying this is how it is, but... You know, like that part of you that makes you feel guilty and beat up on yourself, that could be, you know, your superior self that's beating your ass. And then you eventually climb up to him and he's just as weak as you are, and then you merge into him.
You put it well that we are amalgamations of alter egos or the
My
spirit of whatever
avatar-
you were exposed to.
My avatar is like this old man. He wears like this fucking robe, and he just tells me like one fucking thing at a time. And then it's always like something that I have to fucking meditate on for like a month, because I'm like, what the fuck did he just say? You know?
I've been figuring shit out for months. Like TM, I've had arguments with you about shit that I no longer believe because I'm rapidly just trying. I've been given like a thought experiment that seems to never end, and I continuously.
I still haven't like explained, like, you know, when you have a car accident and you have to read off what happened,
Yeah.
and the other person cuts you off every 5 seconds.
Because it's so unreal. Like it's so intense.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. You said that, right? You said the whole sell my soul. So I laid on the drama Okay, just so if it was really the case, and if you really were seeing that as a particularly good thing, I could at least lay on some kind of negative reinforcement to it. But later, I checked every like a week later, and then a month later, and so on. Have you done it again? Have you done it again? Have you done it again? Over and over and over, and now it's been months and you haven't.
So what does that tell you?
Well, that just means that the part there is the figurative side of I want to give a part of my soul just to get a way out, which is from the description of what you gave of that particular like just essentially awakening sequence of your in the mythos of your avatar higher self confronting you and so on. You were just trying to get an easy cop out with the whole sell your soul thing, and you got punished for it.
Because it's not even real. So he had to be corrected for that, because it's not even something it's not real. Like, people can choose to tend towards certain afterlives or something, but that you can't actually. You have agency. It's like you have agency over yourself always. It's not something that
you can start sacrificing your agency on purpose, feeding a specific weakness that relates to that, and that's how you end up being the Negroes down the street.
It's a temporary state, though.
Yeah, the Negroes down the street. How'd they get there?
It's a temporary state, and they're going to have to pay for it.
State of having brokered over their minds to whatever the hell that thing was.
Who knows? I don't really know, who is in control.
It's always yours. It's just you let something move in.
They may have been the ones in control,
and they may have to just that is your will.
They may just have to pay for it with their karma, honestly. They may have been conscious the whole time, and they just kind of went down the wrong path. And
how did that happen? How do you end up sacrificing your kids, and then like your husband just gets sent through a wall, and you come out of that smiling?
Well, they weren't smiling though. They were
smiling. The mother was smiling. Remember that?
Well, the daughter, she had a delusion that they had to go to heaven. They had to do that. They had told them some lie.
Yeah, there you go. That's a weakness. Her weakness invited something in that deceived her, fed on that weakness.
Yeah, but she was a sleeper. She wasn't one of the cultists, really. She was being used. I don't think so.
She absolutely looked like one of the cultists.
She was being used by them. She was like a pawn.
She was likely not on their level, and so a pawn, but visibly knew that
they
she
probably
was
got something. They probably reaped some of the rewards of that.
She was promised rewards.
Yeah, if you show weakness to what I experienced, then you would be in the movie Videodrome, shooting people and then blowing your brains out.
No, that's what that movie's about.
That's what it is about, correct. It fucking freaked me out watching it after I tripped. So is Jacob's Ladder.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
That freaks me out. That's what it is. That's what it feels like, that entire goddamn movie.
Ooh. Oh yeah, I know some aspects of that movie, because I kind of had a trial where I had to deal with a lot of things like that, and it was like, ooh.
You're stuck. You're stuck in that fucking loop. Just going up and down, like being head above the clouds, then you're just being ripped apart from every direction, just over and over, and you're being thrown through all these tests, and like it's testing you, and it's like it's jacked into your mind, so that like you have to telepathically fucking not fuck up. Like, it's not about saying the wrong word or doing the wrong thing. Your being has to pass the test. Like, and it's like I get farther every fucking time.
Yeah, well, it's burning off all your bad karma for ascension. It's a big part of left-hand tantra and shit like that. It's not pleasant.
But it's part of the process. I mean, I hate it, and I want it to stop, and I always regret it, but it's what has to happen.
Yeah, well, it's alchemy. The first stage of alchemy is nigredo, the blackening.
Blackening.
Yeah, the blackening. You take something and you. Well,
All
in
the shit
actual
has to get
physical
burned off.
alchemy, what they would do is that they would take something, usually metals, and they would burn off the oxidized outside layer of it.
Yeah, you got to burn off the layers of it that aren't the fine material,
Yeah,
to purify it.
they burn away your ego so that they can finally talk to you. Like, are you ready to listen now? Now that all the bullshit is gone.
You can't take those impurities with you to gaining spheres.
Yeah,
They have to go.
yeah. You get freed of your, I guess I would say your material assigned hindrances, the things that cause you to be closed-minded and not be able to.
And a lot of your threads to the material world.
Yeah.
You have less threads to it after. You're more disconnected.
Until you go to work a couple of times and then you're back to where you started, except you're kind of a little bit of a higher level from the experience.
Yeah, you level up. It's all a big level up.
Hence the ego level system that I shit out.
Welcome to the world of darkness. Basically it.
There is purpose to that progression, though.
Yo, of course there is.
And recognizing the story that forms.
You
is
gain
what allows
capabilities you couldn't have imagined. I have a few that I couldn't have fucking imagined that I would have.
Efficient use of those new abilities. Because else you're just a computer that's had everything installed into it, and
A fucking technocrat.
Exactly. That's what technocrats do. All they do is just assimilate more and more.
We always talk about how technocrats, whenever they have an analogy for the mind, they're like, it's like a computer or a machine.
Yeah, because that's what they did.
Yeah, because they stripped it down to a machine by being disconnected from their fucking avatar.
I mean,
You have that theory. I just have the theory that they didn't strip themselves of their avatar. They just confined it.
Yeah, it's probably
they
never
controlled
gone.
their higher self to such an extent that it has become like a commodity to them.
Well, not even that. They're not even in touch with it. They don't even know it exists.
I'm quite sure it is. They are. They've just bent it into shape, as opposed to let it grow into what it's supposed to be.
How horrible.
Their minds are square watermelons sold in Japanese supermarkets.
They did like a really nasty kind of gardening on their mind where they had like one really special flower that they had to make grow and glow, and it would start glowing and give them all kinds of.
Well, there is something to be said that you do.
And then
have
they just
to apply
ripped it out and threw it in the
quite
trash.
a bit of. Well, no, to rip it out and throw it away. That's not an accurate thing, because there are technocrats out there that aren't, or at least at the start of their progression, when you catch them young, they're not entirely unpleasant. It's that it starts with finding that the easy way is to press your mind into what you want it to be towards an ideal. There is, of course, going with the garden analogy, you have to do your gardening.
Well, the easy way is the way of evil.
The way of evil is to plant something that isn't your mind in the garden, obviously. That's not what the technocracy does. The technocracy turns the garden into a golf course. Yeah, it's what they do. Plenty of space. And so, you have these technocrats. They can do math you could never do with like 8 years of college on the tip of their hands.
Oh, yeah. Well, they have skills,
the syndicate niggas have the company in their head. They can visualize all the moving parts. They know. We were just talking about Tesla earlier. I don't remember if you were in voice for that. That guy is just like the pure epitome of what a technocrat that turned out right does. And there are vivid descriptions of what he did mentally, which was that he was extremely adept at visualizing things. That he would build the machines in his head before he would make them physically.
Well, of course, mind spheres.
And that's just good gardening.
That's mind
Extremely
spheres.
diligent gardening, not natural gardening, but it is gardening nonetheless. And
Well,
so on.
there's a lot of ways to do things. You know what I mean? There's near endless ways to do things. That's one way.
Inverted niggas, which we are, okay? There's no LARPing. What we do is that we take the evil, the seed of evil, put it in the garden, and we've learned to garden that, which is probably the most difficult part of that. Now I see this nigga on the internet waving guns on the internet, screaming about Ted Kaczynski getting visited by the FBI, and then he starts rambling about how he has demons in his head and he's awakening. The first step is to, of course, dissuade him from that as much as possible before he turns into yet another twisted thing. Not even warp spawn, that's just completely unusable, but an actual twisted thing that's just completely broken and fizzles out fairly fast.
Well, sure, it can happen.
And then, which is what he's doing, he finds that he can show up in front of some Hindu god of death, plant that in his garden that, with appropriate leisure, instead of rushing in, selling his soul, saying, grow it now, and then just...
Yeah, well, you can't pull a Dr. Faust.
Well, that's the whole point. Faust outsmarted his demons. That's good gardening. That is the story of Faust, of, in theory, the good infernalist.
I don't consider myself inverted, though. You think I am? I can still do something.
No. You give Christian Kyler allergic reactions for a good reason.
Christian and Kyle, yeah, because they're inverted.
And you have allergic reactions to them.
Because they're inverted.
Yeah, they are like...
It's because I'm not and they are. That's the whole issue.
They put out vibrations that are exactly like that. And you know what they are? They test people. You don't like that?
I don't like their vibe, no.
I bet Dag and whatever, the rest of the company isn't exactly into the whole esoterica, but I bet he's addicted to the vibes they put out because that's what they do.
Nah, I don't like how abrasive he is. He's not... Christian is... He claims that he's like self-aware and stuff, but then he doesn't realize that he doesn't understand other people's perspectives, and then I observe how he doesn't even try to...
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm contentious with him, because he doesn't understand, he doesn't make any effort to understand my perspective. Yeah, we're awakened people, so you have to.
That's what I'm talking about.
You don't.
Like,
you have allergic reactions. Yeah, he is that way. And why can't you adapt?
I am adapting. It's just, I mean, with these guys, they don't handle it too well. Whenever he gets abrasive, like, I'm willing to, I see, okay, this guy's not going to listen. I'm going to let him play around with his paradigm because, you know, we're in this big maelstrom where people are being stirred into doing things.
Yeah, and I do adapt. I may go to another convention with them when I have money. I'm not worried about going to a convention with them. It's just that sometimes they can be.
The abrasiveness is intentional. I'm not going to be his lawyer here, but the abrasiveness is intentional.
Yeah, it's his shtick. It is.
You niggas, especially because you're spirit niggas, it's just something about you guys where it is you will concede and you will consider the other person's point of view and you will explain how that relates to your perspective. He doesn't do that shit. He has his perspective, it stays.
Well, then I can't talk about perspectives with him.
Oh, you talking about Christian?
Yeah. Yeah, because he's not some fucking... He absolutely is adamant on what he believes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I know.
It's just that you have to understand that it's not going to be a talk about, so what have you read in your magazine today? Oh, I've read this. It's interesting. It's really
Well, I'm
changed my
aware of
mind.
that. That's why I go to the con with him, but I'm just not going to have philosophical conversations with him.
Right, that's my perspective on him. Like, I'm fine with the way he is.
I'll
I'm just
tell him
not
that.
going. I just accept that I'm not going to get a good
Yeah,
conversation
I'll fucking tell him that if I go out there and then he starts to argue with me over one. I'll say that I'm not going to have fucking conversations like that with you then.
Yeah,
He is,
and then I'll just go to the con.
his realm
And then I'll still
of
hang out with them.
where his dynamics come into play is in the applied. This like abstract back and forth that we do online. Not quite. First of all, something that probably doesn't convene to his taste, but I can't speak for that. But I know he is far more comfortable and skilled when it comes to applying, which is why he is the war master of his war band out there, and he's picked quite a few niggas out of, the whatever over there and awakened those niggers.
Yeah, he's good at what he does.
So when it does come to, shaping someone's perspective and doing the whole process, yeah, he could do that. There's no problem.
Oh, he's good at what he does. It's just not what I do and not what I'm interested in.
I don't have a problem with him, but if I want to like talk about the shit we've been talking about for the last hour, I'm going to talk to one of you guys about it.
He would ruin that conversation. It would just be yelling.
Yeah. I'm fine with. I accept him for who he is. I will continue to engage with him. It's just I'm not going to look to him for like deeper insight on things.
Yeah, he has a different profession as an awakened person.
Well, you can.
It's like a different job.
You can ask him for what his perspective are on things, and don't expect to have it delivered in an
yeah, but it's like asking people like about their job that's vastly different than yours and has no application to your job.
Yeah,
and it's
so you get to where their skill level is, or you're trying to get there, and when you feel like an apprenticeship is in order, then you can talk.
But I don't. He doesn't have. He has different spears than I want.
Oh, we talk all the time. We talk all the time, right?
Yeah, well, we do.
You know that. We discuss like stuff that is.
Well, we have some overlap.
Paradigmatically in line with him.
We have more overlap. We're both interested in divination, for instance.
Yeah, and you have talked about that for like a solid hour.
Yeah, we talk about divination. We have like more common ground. That's different. That's because we do have common ground.
When you deal with fucking technocrats out there, they will be that way. And it will be to the point where you need to have their crypto slang in order to just have the conversation with let alone actually having them adapt their paradigm to you so that it's more ergonomic for you to understand what patterns they may have going on in there.
It's hard to do over the computer, though.
And you're both spirit niggers, so talk about Hindu gods appearing and making you feel all tingly, that's fine. You say that to anybody else, and you will sound crazy.
I know. I am aware of this.
So when, Christian talks about his Christian thing, he will sound crazy.
Yeah. I get
No,
it.
I know it's not crazy, though, for his isn't either. But it's just different.
I don't want to, like, when I came out of my experience, I was thinking of ways to change the world and how to make people have the experience, but I'm realizing, like, to allow things to go as they are. And when I say praise chaos, I don't hold many things sacred. I'm not upset about America losing a war to somebody. Or
the stat for that in Mage is Arete. You just went from 1 point to 2 dots, which means you're fairly in our neighborhood, and now it just sounds like a conversation instead of just some kind of one-sided argument on two sides.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. No, everything has made perfect sense in this whole conversation.
I mean, Kitsune has had the arguments within the Nightmare Labyrinth of everybody screaming, "You are literally the devil," and Kitsune screaming, "Yeah, so what?" And then that not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's fine. I understand people's paradigms. I don't want to change them. I'm like, whatever makes you live and move, you're being swept up in the waves of the maelstrom to stir shit in reality. I don't care. I don't care if you rape kids or something. I don't. It does not matter.
Erte 2. You are merely a pattern within patterns within patterns.
No, I don't give a shit about anything anybody else does. It doesn't affect me either.
Yeah, you're just wasting your time worrying about politics.
It's completely like it's like the cosmic play, and I've just accepted it.
Yeah.
It's like a good bit of theater or whatever, and it's like, okay, I can't get wrapped up in it though because it's not in my control.
Yeah, we had that argument before TM. I think that was mostly just about the magic numbers guy. That was mostly like a miscommunication that I felt like this guy has a good paradigm, but like it will become
the magic
it will
correspondence man.
Yeah, it will develop to
No,
become.
sorry. I brought that up on purpose because I knew you would react to that, so that I could just do the whole.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the guy who
No,
said
like I've been in his server for a fucking while, just essentially screaming patterns at him, so that he can like feed the process, and like just had at some point like towards the end I had to find more things to like kind of feel
that's good. That probably helped him out.
I threw Magic Numbers Man under the bus for that.
Yeah. No, arguing with you definitely gave me a shitload of ideas. It's not like you were definitely right about a lot of things, like wanting to force my order upon other people. I started to think about.
Yeah, I have more constructive arguments of you because you don't just get angry, and it reinforces my own.
With Dag, I've argued blatantly wrong points of view just on purpose.
Well, no, I know
really,
you
because it's
I know
like
you play the insane act.
When you're in front of a nigga who's screaming about how the medium is the message and he doesn't get that the argument is for its own sake, you can't help yourself.
I think we all realized that as it was happening, and we all kept. Yeah, I've been here for a while. We all just kept hammering on that continually.
It's been productive. I'm not going to deny that.
Oh yeah, I've never been hurt by an internet fucking argument. I have real fucking problems. I've been attacked. I've seen voodoo niggas. Okay, I don't. I'm not gonna get my fucking feelings hurt after I see some bullshit in the street after the power line glitches.
It's like the expanding brain meme. It's like halfway through is arguing on the internet, and like towards the end, it's telepathically warring with the voodoo down the street.
Yeah, you have to have like no fucking real problems if you really get hurt by an internet argument or something. Like it's all just spitballing ideas and stuff.
I mean,
we could just walk away from the screen.
Yeah, how are arguments even real?
You never hear about black men getting cyberbullied.
You do actually, quite a lot.
Nigger.